everybody. It is Dean Z speaking to you from one of the least lovely rooms at the University of Michigan Law School, Hutchins Hall, but it is the room where I took civil procedure and also administrative law, so I hope that will, really inform your viewing of this episode. All right, so this is a very special episode. This is the episode that I think everyone in my office has been most excited for me to do. I know there's a lot of moms out there who are watching. Hi, Jenny's mom, by the way. And I myself am a mom. I'm even a mom of a law student. So I know what it is to be a parent, and I have some words of wisdom for the parents who may be listening, but mostly for the applicants whose parents may be involved to a greater or lesser extent than they might want. This is the appropriate amount for your parents to be involved in your law school application process. 0. 0 is the amount. No, I'm exaggerating, but for effect. But I think this is a delicate issue. I mean, so for those of us who are in the higher ed setting, especially the legal higher ed setting, we are looking at our entering students not as children, but as people who are going to be, in about 5 more minutes, lawyers. People who will be billing in 3 years. As a first-year law student, you may be billing multiple hundreds of dollars per hour for your time. You may be the person standing between your client and prison. You may be the person who is going to get custody back for your client. It's an incredibly important, serious role. And in some ways, I'd say it's actually even more monumental in some ways than being a doctor, because when you graduate from med school, then you're a resident, and then, 50 more things happen before you're actually set free to do lots of things on your own without lots of supervision. And a lawyer, you can graduate and hang out your shingle, as we say. For some reason, that's what lawyers say when they mean open their own office, and just go to it. And so that's a big deal. Over the course of my time in this job, I have seen an increasing involvement by parents in physical presence in this process. So people might come to appointments with their children. Parents might come to appointments in our office with children. Parents, it's not been uncommon. I think through my entire time, I've seen a couple parents here or there at the giant law school admissions council recruiting events called forums. But I see an increase in that. And then this year, for the first time, I've seen parents showing up on campuses where I am doing recruiting events. And that's a first. And I've talked about it with a couple colleagues at other schools. So I assure you that my reaction to this is not idiosyncratic. You should not be there if you are a parent. This should be for your child to attend these events on their own, to have these conversations on their own. If you are attending with your child, by no means should you ask any questions, but you really shouldn't just be there at all. If you are a student who wants your parent to attend with you, I think that's a great signal. I understand that impulse. We all are at different places at different times in our lives. But I think I would question, is this really the right time for you to be applying to law school? Maybe you should take a beat, get a job and be independent in that way, and then apply in another year. This also happens when we have admitted student events. Occasionally people will come with their parents, and I think that really completely undercuts one of the main purposes of the events, which is for the students to interact, the admitted students to interact with each other and get to know each other, because a big part of happiness in law school is finding the right community. And so if you are escorting someone else around with you, that really impedes that process. I think of it, now that I'm saying this, I kind of think of this as like going to a party with Mr. Dean Z, who is himself extremely reserved and even shy, and it kind of disturbs my flow, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the greatest thing to go to a party with Mr. Dean Z, because I don't get to talk to as many people, and I'm always kind of worrying, how's he doing? Is he happy? So this is not a video about my marriage. Let's move on. I do understand also, I understand how this comes about, actually, in all seriousness. It's like some of these events, especially like the Law School Admissions Council events or our admitted student events, they require people to travel. So it totally makes sense to me that, especially if you're a 21, 22, 23-year-old, I don't know, I still travel with my kids, and they're even older than that. I understand why you might travel with a parent to whatever city the event is occurring in. And that's great. I'm a mom, right? So I love people who love their mothers or fathers. They're not unimportant. But the proper role, again, is, I think, as a parent, is to hang back and let your child do the event by themselves and then meet up afterwards. And you can, play Candy Crush on your phone or whatever. I don't know. There's probably been a game invented since Candy Crush, but I don't know what it is. And this may sound like I'm giving parenting advice, and I guess it is a little bit of that. But really, I'm thinking about this from the point of view of the applicant, because it really just does impede their ability to have a full experience. And I completely understand that this is coming from a place of affection and care on the part of the parent, and also sometimes on the part of the student, I know this is very common in particular with first-gen students, that they feel like, I did not get here on my own, I got here with my family, I want my family to see this beautiful law school that I've been admitted to, or I want my family to enjoy the excitement of this process with me. And I love that sentiment. But I think there are ways to effectuate that without actually showing up on campus or to events with your child. For example, you can listen to great videos like this and learn a lot about the admissions process, or you can read articles about the law school admissions process, or what have you. You can, educate yourself about the process, and then if your child comes to you with questions, you could share that information. But even better, I think, is to just listen and be supportive in a sort of non-substantive way. So sometimes this can go very far off the rails, where a parent will say, well, I am paying, so I have a role in this decision, and I want to sit in on, this comes up a lot in financial aid. I'm paying, so I want to know this whole scenario. And I think, again, in 3 years, this person is going to be a lawyer. So you need to make them, if they've been admitted to law school, they certainly have the intellectual capacity to understand the financial aid process. You need to make them wade through this. Even if you are paying, you want them to understand the finances. Make them have that conversation and make them repeat it back to you. That's great for them, and it is, I think, important in terms of the way they are presenting themselves to the financial aid office. And this can lead, not cutting this off at an early stage can lead to problems. Our career planning office told me about an email they got this year from a parent who said, I want to talk to you about my child's interview selections. Don't tell them I'm emailing. We can't do that. There's a law. It's called FERPA, Federal Family Educational Right to Privacy Act. We can't talk to parents about applicants or about students. There's a right to privacy there. I think that kind of email is really overstepping. I expressed that to the career planning person who told me, and they said, oh, I got one that beats that. I got a partner at a law firm who told me this week about a parent who called and said that they wanted to talk about their child's evaluation, annual evaluation. And the partner said, I'm going to do your child a favor, and I'm going to hang up now. Because you gotta separate yourself and imagine how you would feel if you are the person on the receiving end of these kinds of forays. It would not impress you about the person's child, and that is at the heart of what you want to achieve. Like the reason a parent is reaching out this way, is involving themselves this way, is because they care so deeply about their child. Please take my word for it when I tell you, you are not helping your child in terms of, their reputation and what's going to be done for them at this law school in question, or in these rare instances at the employer. When I was talking with my staff about how I was going to do this video, I expressed a little trepidation because, again, I mentioned already that there's a slightly different dynamic with first-gen families, where often the children are very interested in involving their families. I still think that's, not a great idea, but I understand that sentiment a lot, and I find it very affecting. I love that. But one of the people on my staff who's done a lot of work with undergrads before working for me she said, I don't really think first-gen families are the problem. My family's a first-gen family. And she said in her case, her parents actually weren't involved at all. But she said, I think the problem are people who aren't first-gen who don't recognize how much they are not experts, who don't recognize that in the passage of the 30 years since they last attended school, lots of things have changed, or that schools are quite different from each other. So you went to one school and your child's applying to this other school, they don't have anything in common, right? So it's the Dunning-Kruger effect here, which, look it up, it's a great idea, great concept. It's the idea that you think you don't know what you don't know. You think you know stuff because you went to college, and you probably don't, because the world has changed a lot in the intervening period. Another area where I think parents need to be extremely cautious about getting involved, cautious in the sense of don't do it, is with reviewing application materials. So I know that parents are often reading essays and giving their their gut opinion about what you've said about yourself. I can almost 100% guarantee that if your parent isn't working in legal education, and even then possibly, if they're not in admissions, their advice is going to be bad about this. So I have a family friend who applied to law school a few years ago. Mom read the essay, gave him notes, and then he said, Auntie Sarah, he's not really my nephew, but he just calls me that, Auntie Sarah, will you look at my essay? And so I said, it's really great. Here are the parts I really like in particular. And he said, oh, my mom said to take those parts out. I was like, your mom, one of my best friends, doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. She's a lawyer. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Do not listen to your mom. For the love of God, listen to me, not her. I am sorry I'm not aunties to all of you, because I would love to play that role. But she really had terrible instincts, and I suspect most lawyers will too, because they're not doing what we are doing in admissions. Okay, so bottom line, if you want to get involved, I think the best role for parents is to be there as a support. So when your child doesn't get into a given law school, you say, stupid dean of admissions, that stupid law school, you're so great, they didn't understand that. Or if they ask for advice about something, you can say, here's my best guess, and if you don't know, say, I don't know, let's try and figure it out together. But don't sort of cross the line into actually being a physical presence in this process for your child, because it's not doing them any favors. All right, I think that is all I have to say about that. I hope that's useful. And again, I hope I'm not losing like 90% of the people who are watching these videos, because I know from some very kind emails that I've gotten that a lot of moms out there watching, which I love. So, okay. Thanks for watching. As always, if you have comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below, or email us at law.jd.admissions@umich.edu. Thanks as always to Dustin Johnston, who picked out the ugliest room in the law school today for me to film from. So thanks for that. And, wherever you go, go blue.